I have arrived at one of my favorite places on earth. When I lived in Dayton, Ohio, I came here all the time because I had such a connection to the National Museum of the Air Force. A lot of relatives, veterans of World War II, a couple of whom are still alive. Korea, Vietnam War. And I would come here. I came one year with one of my relatives who was a World War II veteran who was credited with shooting down 7 Japanese Zeros from the deck of an LST in the Philippines. Basically experienced firsthand kamikaze attacks on his machine gun turret. And he and I stood in front of a Japanese Zero, which is in this building. And he told me the story that I'm going to tell you when we're standing in front of it. This is powerful stuff. And I hope I'm able to do this place justice because it means so much to me and my family and so much of America. My family, basically Navy people, but a lot of everything is represented here. So let's go in and check out everything from the very origin of aviation in Asia, balloons and stuff, all the way up to rockets and moon rovers and stuff. This is going to be awesome. Yeah, we're here. Look at that. I'll tell you now, I'm not going to be able to do any of this any justice whatsoever, so you're just going to have to come. But some early radial engines, getting into the 12 cylinders and Merlin era, the Benz and Curtiss variants. And right there, look at that critter. If I remember correctly, this is the first ever aircraft that had a machine gun shot from it, maybe a gun period. But look at it, it's basically like a Wright B flyer, only a whole lot bigger. The guy's just sitting up in the front in a glorified I mean, look at that, that's just cloth, and he's sitting up in there with the machine gun. Twin engine. People who make reproductions of the early Wright B flyer basically use Model A engines or Model B, I think like 28 to 32. Such a killer time. You start to see nose art in this area, in this era. Maybe some of you guys know that name. Unmanned. Basically a bomber. Kettering aerial torpedo. Kettering being an inventor from this area who, he and Patterson, 2 local names here, involved in early automotive technology too. I'm assuming that's a Fokker, F-O-K-K-E-R, one of the first wind tunnels. You guys ready? The picture we've all seen from 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright flying at Kitty Hawk. They were raised here, started their bicycle shop where they built bikes, engineered them. A lot of bicycle parts on this one. Had a little rail that they took off from. And this is an example of a warp wing aircraft. You'd actually bend the wing to determine which direction it goes. This is a military version. Can you imagine seeing your neighbors out building one of these and flying the damn thing? They went to Kitty Hawk basically because there was more consistent wind there. Notice the tank up there. Curtiss. Curtiss involved in early aviation in a huge way too. Yeah, that's how you flew. That was your protection right there. Those are bamboo sticks. This whole thing is just bamboo. I mentioned the Wright brothers kind of got their whole thing going by building bicycles. women's bicycle from 1895. Look at the detail there. The wheels are wood, not metal. The hand grips, that's a brake. If you don't think one of those triplane Fokkers is cool, I don't know what to tell you. That is so incredible. I'd love to see those in flight. Ford Model T ambulance. 03 to 27 they made Model Ts, so this would have been a World War I era. A very cool example of a radial engine. Instead of having a V configuration, they're in a perfect circle, and as the crankshaft goes around, or their version of a crankshaft, every cylinder fires on its rotation. Okay, now we're getting into like 1930-ish. The Ford is going to be like a 32 to 34. They introduced the V8 in 32, and this has a V8, so 32 at least. Also, the grill is 32. You ever seen one of these auto gyros? If you'll notice, there's not just a prop on the front. There's also... What? These things were a bit notorious. If you didn't know how to fly them exactly, well, you weren't in the air very long. It's a very cool concept, but for some reason it just wasn't worked out. Not very stable in flight. Absolute classic airplane. Oof. I had a little toy of one of these when I was a kid. P-26A pea shooter. Well, it's got two 30 caliber or 150 cal and 30 cal machine guns, 200 pounds of bombs. It may look pretty, but if you were the enemy, you didn't want to see it coming towards you. Can you tell we're moving up? We still had radial engines, but we're moving forward. Machine gun turret on the front. You're going to start to see tail gunners and stuff as these aircraft get larger. Classic right there. This polished one. And look straight up. Look at the underside of that. Little glider has one little joystick in the front. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you'll see where the guy sat. See the one little joystick? Pedal down in front. Ski on the front. As you walk by, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is some big table, but that's just a big rubber tire. It's probably 6 to 7 feet across. They set up these scenes so well. You'll notice that as we go. We're getting closer and closer. Getting away from radial engines very shortly. This is kind of the end of it. This is to depict a training exercise when the guy accidentally crashed and he's getting yelled at by his CO. Now, this is kind of one of them that changed it all. De Havilland DH-82A Tiger Moth. You'll probably think, wow, that looks a whole lot like a P-51. Yeah, they start getting very similar at this time, but see 3 pipes on each side. The P-51 would have 6 pipes on each side, and it would be a V-12 Merlin. I purposely did not take any video or pictures of the area that deals with the Nazi concentration camps of World War II. When you see it, you'll understand why. There's a real reverence in that area and respect. We're getting close to the Japanese Zero. I told you I was going to have a cool story when we get there. Little baby trainer. Look at that. Turret up on top. Wow. Coming around the corner here to the Zero. built by Mitsubishi. I promised you a story about the Japanese Zero and my great uncle Lannis. Kentucky boy, grew up hunting, and said he probably was in a machine gun turret because he knew how to lead a target. It's the practice of when you're hunting, and like say a rabbit is on the run, you shoot slightly ahead of the rabbit, so by the time the bullet gets there, it hits the rabbit. Now, he was officially credited in the Philippines of taking 7 of these down. And when we were standing right here, he told me a story that was pretty intense. I looked over and I saw him just standing here, and he had one arm kind of holding the other arm, one arm straight down, the other one kind of clasping the other elbow. And I said, wow, when was the last time you saw one of those? Now, this is a guy who didn't honestly speak much about the time in the war. He had a lot of things that he brought back, but didn't talk about it. And I said, when was the last time you saw one of those? And he says, well, it was probably 15 or 20. 15 or 20 feet to my left. It was coming straight in like a kamikaze, coming straight. He said they would come in 2 ways. They would either come very, very low altitude with the sun directly behind them at sunrise or sunset, or they would go to the very top of their ceiling of how high they could operate. Then they would come straight down after picking out a target. This particular one started coming straight down and aiming directly at his turret on the side of the LST. And as it got closer and closer, it just kept coming. And then finally, this area right here folded back and rotated the airplane, and it landed in the water 15 or 20 feet away. There's some other cool stories coming up, but this one was the one that just unbelievable. Took out 7 of those. Turning around 180 degrees from the Japanese Zero. See the machine gun turret on top, loading the bombs down in the bomb bay. Look what we got going here. The Cyclone 14, maximum horsepower 1700. Yeah, they're making some beasts along about now. Oh wow, it's like a mid-engine mounted V12. That's cool. We've got some legendary aircraft in here, and when I say legendary, this is one of the more famous ones just because of the name. But the era of nose art kicking in. When a flight did not go as planned. But look at this turret in the front. Machine gun down low, each side. Whew. What a beast. Another example of an aircraft showing up and changing the way things were going. Memphis Belle. Those are all bombing missions. And I guess the swastika is maybe one of their aircraft. Going to kind of bust around this section here because they have 3 or 4 prop-driven aircraft that are just stunning in person. That air intake, look at that. And every now and then, there's a car in the middle of it all. Looks like a Packard grill. 42 Packard Clipper Army staff car. Huh. Shimmy forward. Sliding canopy. It won't be too much longer till we get into jets and turbines. Now this one coming up around here If it's not a P-38, it's close to a P-38. The same uncle I was telling you about when we stood in front of one of these. He's a man of few words. It's P-38. He was a man of few words. And he kind of stood looking at this one. And I asked him if he had any thoughts on it. And he says, I sure was glad to see those a few times. Freaking legend. I'm just going to quickly zoom up to the side and you tell me if this aircraft did much while in service. Oh, now look at that. Is that a Cushman? It's a Cushman airborne scooter with a trailer. That's a cool little dude. There's a trailer on the back. Anyway, we're coming up on one here shortly that it's the main event. It's an astounding thing to see in person, and the story, when I say it changed the world, you'll absolutely agree. Look what we have back in there. Jeezel. Whoa. And as always, look what we have hanging above us. You may have seen this little critter in specials talking about the Nazis in World War II. This was one of their little special jet engine early version things. Very experimental and stuff. Looks kind of like a puppy with an underbite up here. And we are in the jet age. You'll still see some prop aircraft in here. But this is toward the end of that era. Once again, now, this was the one I was talking about. Maybe you can pick up on what it did by looking at that art right there. This is the legendary boxcar. This is the one. Back for just a moment to the story of my great uncle. We were standing here talking about all this, the bomb right there, and I asked him what happened when he first heard about the dropping of the atomic bombs. And he said when the first one landed, you know how information in the early hours of something happening is very scant and not necessarily precise. He said somebody came running into the barracks and said, the war's over. And everybody turned around like, what? And he said, yep, we dropped a bomb on Tokyo. First of all, the bomb did not go on Tokyo. And second of all, it wasn't quite over yet, but it would be soon. But my great uncle said, one bomb? Which I believe was everybody's sentiment at the time. Little boy atomic bomb. Fat boy. And boxcar. Can you imagine looking out one of those little windows back at the city? Alrighty, I wipe my eyes. This one's a pretty cool room. You're about to see some pretty cool stuff. Drones, my brother, and everything else cool. Have a special story about that drone right there. There was a World War II vet here when this thing first got placed. And I was saying, boy, that's a wild looking aircraft. And he says, well, yeah. And he says, you know why it has to be as big as it is? And I said, no. And he said, if it was any smaller, it couldn't be that ugly. Fair. All right, you know we got to go in this thing. Cute little nose. Well, let's go. Whew. I can imagine a little bit of anxiety as you go up inside this critter. Wow. Whoa. That's your seat right there. I've been in one of those. And you have one little lap belt. It's all that's between you and the great beyond. This thing is huge. Yeah, I went up with the U.S. Army Golden Knights one time, and everybody was strapped in these. Yeah, you're sitting right by a door. You're sitting right by a door that's wide open, hoping that strap is not outdated. Look at that. Ooh, look at that one. Oh, you pretty, pretty aircraft. Oh. All black with red. F-82 twin Mustang. Look at that. I've never seen one in person. Holy crap. That is a freaking beast. It's the only thing that's better than a P-51. Putting two of them together. See those 6 pipes on each side. Merlin Me-12. It's a Merlin V-12. Look at the difference in size. Oh, I bet that thing was a beast. Got those air intakes down low. This is what I'm talking about. The Russians had a MiG. This thing was a very formidable opponent. Look at that air intake. F-86A Sabre. That's ours. But you can see how we kind of influenced each other's design. Oh, wait till you looky over here. Stealth bomber. They used to have people with M16s guarding those. Even putting a Cessna 172 in there. You guys ever fly one of those? If you are taking lessons, there's a really good chance you'll be taking them in one of these. Kind of like the minivan of the sky. Good airplane though. There's a reason it's popular. That thing looks a little PO'd. See a little pointy thing right there? Let's see what's connected to that. Oh, nothing, just that. By the way, we're going into a whole new world. Quite literally. We're going to the space gallery. Prepare yourself. We're going to look up high. Here we go. Now, let's look up. How's that for a display? This is crazy. That, my friends, is a booster rocket from the early Apollo days. Wait till you see inside here. Looks like you made it out of parts from like CVS. See all the toggle switches? He sat right in there. See what I mean? Looks like you just assembled it in the backyard. And they went to space. Here's another one. We'll get to that one on the right here in just a second. Two people in this little critter. Isn't that insane? They still use some toggle switches, but they were basically going to Radio Shack to buy all the parts. Kidding. Apollo 15. If you're approximately my age, this is what you saw landing in the water with those parachutes on it so many times when we were young. Everybody in the room clapping. Hey, buddy. This thing looks like it would be straight out of I Dream of Jeannie. Larry Hagman flying it test style. Look at that. Looks like Evel Knievel would be flying that thing. What? This is crazy looking. The wings are about 6 feet long on each side. I think I remember this. Douglas Stiletto. That wing is probably 5 to 6 feet long. That's crazy. Look at that. Yeah, we're gonna get back here and look at this shot. Look at the engines on the one in the middle. The LX-1B, that thing was very important in helping us figure out what happens to an aircraft when it's going faster than the speed of sound. Mach 3 in this airplane. Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound. Look at that shape from the top. I'll get a good one here. And of course we still have some beautiful aircraft above us. Looky here. Our very own flying saucer. The Avro Canada VZ9AV Avro car. See down on the edges there, the little flaps? Give it some stability. I bet that thing would fly beautifully now with all the current computer aids. Oh, what a beautiful helicopter. This thing looks brand new. Rotating props. That's cool. Oh, this is the back of that Stealth we saw earlier. The reason there are openings like this and they have flaps on them is to hide its heat signature. So you can't send heat-seeking missiles after it. That's pretty smart stuff. Tell you one thing, if I ever need another spark plug wire, I'm gonna come down here. Got all sorts of them. Got the fancy red boots too. Oh, what do we have here? Yep. Oh, nothing special. Wonder what we have here. All right. They're just leaving them out here in the open now. I got a short bed truck. I don't even think it would even fit in my. It's got to be an 8-foot bed at least, I would imagine. Back to the truck. Back to more adventures. Gearhead adventures, that is. Man, how's that for humbling? Every time I come here, it's just such a moving thing because I realize how many Americans not only fought but died for this country. Came back forever changed, still suffering. I'm extremely proud to be an American. And this just fortifies it every time I come here. The best lives we can live are the ones that not only bring us the most joy, but honor these people. A lot of people's names you never knew. Some you forgot already. I'm rambling on, but I just want you to know that these are such important places to visit and honor. Most of the employees are veterans. There used to be several more who were World War II and Korean even Vietnam, but as time goes on, obviously those people are no longer with us. The Museum of the United States Air Force. That's the actual name, but you can Google Air Force Museum Dayton and it'll still come up. Beautiful place. You can spend all day here. There are cafes in there, bathrooms everywhere. If you're not able to get around very well, there are little electric carts that are free. It's free to get in the place, free to park, but you need to come here before it's all said and done.